Hey guys, it's Lefty from 643 Productions, welcoming you to another Modern Warfare 3 gameplay commentary. Here I am on the map Village using the L86 LSW light machine gun. But this commentary has nothing at all to do with the gameplay. It is just a backdrop for something, a bit of a real talk that I want to talk with you guys about. Today, as of today, it is, let's see, what is today? It is Sunday, May 20th, 2012 as of this recording. And today we are all witness, I believe a lot of us in this digitized, globalized age, when something happens, when something big happens in this world, nowadays we are all witness to it. And I think it's important to get out there and to talk about it, regardless of whether we agree or disagree. It doesn't really matter, but I think it's important to get out there and to start talking about these things. But today in Chicago, in the state of Illinois, the city of Illinois, the S is silent, damn it. I hate it when people do that. Sick of people. Illinois? No, it's Illinois. But today in Chicago was the NATO summit, and there were a large group of people that were protesting the NATO summit. Now, for reasons, pick your reason. They're anti-big government. They are anti-war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they are against the continuation of military operations in the Middle East, considering that our objectives have, for all intents and purposes, been accomplished, or at least our stated objectives. And what's more is that, we're not actually at war, and they're against all that, because technically we aren't at war. And whenever you listen to somebody say, oh, well, the war is going on, and we're not at war. Congress has not, the United States Congress has not declared war on anybody. We are not at war. We haven't been at war with anybody since World War II, the last time I checked. Now, maybe my history is off, but I'm pretty sure we didn't declare war on Vietnam. We did not declare war on the Viet Cong and the Vietnamese people, or the people of North Vietnam. And to my knowledge, we have not declared war on the people of Iraq or on the country of Iraq, and we have not declared war on Afghanistan or the Taliban or anything like that. We haven't declared war on anybody, but apparently we're at war. But anyway, again, political grandstanding aside, there were these people, this large group of people, largely 20-somethings here. We're talking early to mid-20s in age, and a lot of people gathered in a part of Chicago by McCormick Center and by the museum campus, which I know where that is. I actually had a girlfriend once that had a condo over there, and so Kayla, if you're watching this, or if you know about it, hi, I saw where we used to hang out all the time. I'm just kidding. But a lot of people were gathered there, and they were protesting this conference, and they were protesting these things that they thought the government was doing wrong, and all these things, and of course the police, the Chicago Police Department was out in force, and the Chicago Police Department has they're not as bad as the LAPD in terms of reputation for being malicious and being browbeating kind of police, abuse of their powers. They're not as bad as the LAPD, but they're up there, the Chicago Police Department is. And they were out in force to, quote, keep things in line with regard to the protesters. And at about, I would say 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time today, again on the 20th, things got heated. Things started. There were clashes between some of the protesters and the Chicago Police Department. They were in their riot gear. Some of the Illinois State Police were also out there present in their riot gear, and there were clashes. There were actually kind of blows thrown. We were treated to, if you were watching live coverage, we were treated to shots of protesters being beaten, sometimes severely, by police officers wielding wooden clubs. Now, of course, the Chicago Police Department will say this was crowd control, and this is well within their rights as police, and these are all protected acts by their officers. And, I'm not really here to argue this or that. I'm not here to say, oh, well, they were being brutal, and they were the police brutality on these protesters, and it's an atrocity, and all these things should happen. And, I may believe that personally, but I'm not, I can understand at least the argument. If I don't agree with it, I can understand it. But here's what I'm here to talk about. Again, I'm not here to talk about the politics of what they were protesting or the brutality that I saw necessarily, or at least for its own sake. What I'm here to talk about is I was watching the WGN. For those of you that don't know, living here in America, WGN is a superstation. It is a 3-letter network. It is not as big as CBS, NBC, or ABC, but it is up there in terms of superstations. It was started by Ted Turner, and it's actually a pretty large channel in terms of viewership and circulation. I was watching the WGN coverage, and they had some really nice shots of the clashes between the CPD and the protesters. And at one point, I saw very clearly, along with the talking heads that were providing commentary over the video images that we were seeing, I saw very clearly a rather large Chicago police officer in riot gear applying what could only be described as a vicious cross-check with a billy club. And for those of you that don't know what a billy club is, go ahead and look it up. Providing a vicious cross-check with, a billy club to the throat of a female protester who was doing nothing but standing still, that kind of passive-aggressive protesting style. Standing there, she was on the receiving end of a very vicious cross-check to the throat with a billy club. And I saw it clear as day, and I'm sure the talking heads did as well. But here's my problem. From that point on, the commentary that was provided by those talking heads at WGN did not focus on the, oh man, we saw this police officer cross-check this girl with a billy club. Is that okay? Is that, I don't know, are the police going too far? No, the rest of the commentary, the rest of the coverage of that incident was focused on, oh, how can these protesters, they're instigating the police and they were told to disperse from a public street where they were peaceably assembled. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. A lot of people have. Well, some of them might be right, but call me crazy. But I seem to remember a very significant document within the last, 250 years, that was ratified by a government. And I believe somewhere, I don't know exactly where, but I know somewhere, it granted the people governed by this document the right to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Again, call me crazy. I may be crazy, and I probably am. But I seem to remember something, somewhere at some time, being passed, an official document, an official looking, or at least official sounding document passing, in which that was granted to people. The right to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. I seem to remember that somewhere. I don't know. Maybe you guys can look it up for me. Let me know in the comments. But I seem to remember that. And then here we have a very clear image of a male, very large and imposing police officer cross-checking with his billy club a female protester in the throat. And the rest of the commentary did not focus on that, but focused on the notion of how could these protesters be instigating police and why it was okay for these police officers to be brutally dragging and beating some of these protesters with their clubs and with other equipment, and why it was okay and why it was accessible. Because, they were told to disperse. You were told to disperse by a police officer. You were disrespecting a police order. Well, there was a time in this world, and I'm not going to be, I don't mean to be offensive about this, but there was a time in this world where there was a police-like force, okay? We'll call it a police-like force, not necessarily the police, and not in this country, but where the police force issued orders for a certain group of people to board boxcars to be transported to a certain part of the country. Who's to say what that was for? Again, maybe some of you history buffs out there listening can let me know in the comments what I'm talking about. I don't exactly know. Again, in fact, I've had a couple beers today, so I'm a little lit. But I seem to remember somewhere where there were police orders given to people. And they said, got to get on this boxcar. And what would happen to you if you disobeyed those police orders? My point is this. Is that when you start focusing on that, they were given a police order and they didn't obey the police, and you know what happens when you don't obey the police. That is wrong. I find that, as an intellectual human, I find that offensive. I find that wholly offensive. I am offended by that to my very core. And I very wish I had a direct line to these talking heads so I could say, you know what, I wish I was their boss so I could say, you're fucking fired. No. Because the natural progression of that line of thinking of, oh, well, the police gave you an order. Why didn't you follow it? You know what happens when you don't follow a police order. The natural progression of that line of thinking is, oh, well, if you got nothing to hide, why don't you let the police inside your house to search for drugs and paraphernalia and contraband whenever they want? If you've got nothing to hide, why would you do that? Why would you need privacy? Why would you need a right to privacy? Why would you need a reasonable expectation of privacy anywhere you go? If you got nothing to hide, I mean, am I right? Do you see what I'm getting at here? Do you see what I'm driving at? Here in the comments, let me know. Please let me know. Please, please, please let me know that I am not the only person out there that is thinking like this. And that if you were watching the WGN coverage, or if there were other news outlets that were picking up the feed, and if there were those of you out there that saw the exact same thing that I saw. Again, maybe some people covered it differently. I don't know. I'm speaking only from the perspective here of watching the WGN coverage here in Chicago. Maybe somebody else covered it completely differently. Maybe they covered it the way that I would enjoy or respect. But from my perspective, what I saw and what I heard after seeing quite clearly, not only just this one female protester, but many, but the image of the female protester getting cross-checked with a billy club to the throat, clearly stuck in my mind. And then to have these talking heads, wearing, $5,000 suits in a studio, in an air-conditioned studio, saying, well, if you don't listen to the police orders, that's what happens. Kiss my ass. Oh, it's offensive. I find it wholly offensive. Again, maybe they're protesting. Who cares? Is it really that poor? Are they really going to change anything? I don't know. Is it? Whatever. But my point is this. My point is the coverage and the response to something that could very easily, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but could easily be represented as police brutality. And it was brushed over saying, well, if you don't listen to the police, that's what happens. No. That's not right. When you start thinking like that, bad things happen. That's when the police start grabbing more power. That's when the government starts grabbing more power. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and as always, be sure to show me some love with the like and favorite button. But anyway, guys, that's my time. I got to get out of here. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. I am out.